Hello, Internet and world. My name is Stephen Beecham, producer of the Byte Extra Crunchy podcast with your host, Mr. Brian Tong.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Byte Extra Crunchy, Extra Munchy, episode 117. Can you believe that, Beach?
Yeah.
117?
That's a lot, man.
Yeah, we're back in the flow now. We took a little break. We came back last week, so we're back at it again. Beach and Tong. Again, this show is all about you just as much as it is about all the stuff we talk about. So call us at 1-800-616-2638. Leave your name, where you're from, and get to it. We had a lot, we honestly legitimately had at least maybe 10 other calls we could have put in the show, but since we're covering some of the stuff, some of you guys were saying the same things. We just have to be a little judicious with it. Otherwise, the show could go 2 hours. You don't want that.
Yeah, thank you guys all. We came back and our voicemail box exploded. So
I'm telling you, Byte Extra Crunchy Nation running deep.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the hot news right now, it literally just dropped for us. Apple came out with their earnings report for Q1. That's technically in the calendar year Q4, but from a financial standpoint, it covers the period from October, November, December. And a lot of speculation is really around how did the iPhone actually do? Did it help them? Did it hurt them? So we're going to go down through some of these stats. We aren't going to hit you with too many numbers, but we'll try to make this as clear as possible. Now, the overall revenue for Apple was $88.3 billion for the quarter. That's compared to what analysts estimated would be $87 billion. So at least from a total revenue standpoint, they surpassed those numbers just by about $1 billion. Here's the thing. Let's talk about iPhone specifically. iPhones were sales-wise came in at 77.3 million units total. This is compared to the year before. That was actually 1% below the previous quarter, so it actually dipped a little bit. Analysts were expecting Apple, because of the iPhone 10 craze, again, this is what they were expecting initially, to sell 80.2 million units. They actually sold 77.3. So they did not really measure up to what people were hoping or expecting from a sales standpoint of iPhones. Now, there's other interesting tidbits in here. The average selling price of an iPhone, just any iPhone, because they don't break these down specifically by model, was $796 per phone, which would definitely indicate that the iPhone 10 and iPhone 8 had something to do with this, but really more the iPhone 10 to bump up. We have lower selling iPhones that are selling around, $500 or so. So that helped bump up the average selling price. But when you look at this in the big picture, bottom line, Apple sold less iPhones than they were expected to. And that's not a good thing, right? This is their bread and butter. We'll visit that topic back in a second, but let's talk about other information. iPad sales were 13.2 million units. That's up just 0.1 million from last year's quarter. So again, this is for October through December 2017 compared to October through December 2016. Mac sales, what do you think, Beach? You think they went up or they went down from last year?
I think they went down.
You are correct, sir.
Because of the whole little touch screen thingy that no one really was into.
And also the iMac Pro, it did come late to the game. It came out pretty much like mid to late December, so it wasn't going to be that impactful. It also is really expensive. Yeah. But Mac sales were 5.1 million this year in the fourth quarter compared to 5.4 million last year. So they took a little dip there as well. The other big story here is when you talk about Apple gives estimates of how they want to kind of tell Wall Street how they'll be performing next quarter. When I say next quarter, this would be the period from January to March of 2018. Their guidance is between 60 and 62 billion dollars. Wall Street expected it to be something closer to 65.7, 66 billion dollars. So Apple does like to be kind of set their expectations lower, but in this case, it was the iPhone that performed lower. And again, there's a lot of other evidence that is leading us to believe that the iPhone 10 isn't selling as well as Apple hoped for, as well as analysts hope for. And I think the first thing, we can talk about numbers all we want, but I would just say anecdotally, Beach, I know that typically when a new iPhone came out, most people were like, I'm gonna upgrade to the iPhone 10, like the highest level model. That's the one I want. But this is the year where I had plenty of people who asked me what should I do, and I asked them, what do you want in your phone? And they told me, and I said, you should honestly get an iPhone 8, like based on what they wanted from their phone. And not only that, even like my you know the tech guys, my friends, that they may not be the type of people that have to buy the latest phone, because most of the people listening here were fans of technology, and someone's like, we got to get the newest thing. But I think a lot of those people were like, I'm okay right now, or I'm not going to get the 10 right now, because it is still Apple's real, like, in my opinion, it's still a nice phone. It has its flaws. Obviously, we've talked about them a bunch, but to me, it's still their concept car phone. Like, it still needs like an extra level of polish for me to be like, that's a fine-tuned Apple product.
That's a good way to put it. Their concept car phone. It's like
It is
almost,
to me.
yeah. It's like almost like they're testing it on us. Like they're just running drive tests on us to see how Face ID works and all the new technology works. So that's a very good. I also think it has to do with the price too. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
$1,000 is a sticker shock for a lot of people, and I think that was a big turnoff.
Yeah, I mean, I totally forgot to mention that the price point does have a bit to do about it. I think also mainstream media made the $1,000 price point a bigger deal than it really is when you compare things like a Samsung Note 8. A Samsung Note 8 is, I think, around $950. Apple iPhones, the highest model with the top storage, has hit basically $1,000 already, but they weren't reporting about it then, right?
Yeah.
So I think that kind of also tainted maybe how some people felt about it. But again, dropping $1,000 before any Apple Care, before any expansion tweaks, that's still a lot of money.
That's a gang of money, man.
It's a gang.
It's a grip.
It's a bag. That's a bag. That is a bag. So right now, where we're at, Apple didn't really outperform estimates, specifically with iPhone sales. It's something to keep an eye on. We have heard plenty of rumors. I'm going to kind of jump around, but we will keep talking about iPhone stuff. There's a report by the Wall Street Journal just earlier this week that Apple is cutting their production of iPhones in half for the first 3 months of 2018. So originally, they'd expected to build out 40 million additional iPhone 10 units. Well, that number, according to them, was slashed to 20 million units. And then on top of that, they say that based on their supply chain sources, they're throttling down component parts orders by 60%.
Whoa.
So you can see we know over the lifetime of a phone, they will throttle down orders, but to do that so dramatically 3 months after, I guess you could say, yeah, roughly, 3 months in, that's actually a bigger deal than you think. It's a little concerning, but again, when I said this is Apple's baby, this is Apple's concept car, look, they're sitting on now, after these earnings, their cash reserves are now at $285 billion. They're just sitting on this cash. Apple's going to make sure that this product is going to succeed, and they will just wait it out, and they are going to throw cash at it to make sure. Like, the iPhone is not, sorry, newsflash, the iPhone isn't going to fail anytime soon.
No, it's
right?
not.
They're still selling 77 million units.
Yeah.
But does Apple want to see a decline? No. But also, we've talked about this for years, like this kind of pullback. What more can you do in a phone? What more value is there? And Beach, you said it perfectly. $1,000. Look, to make a $200 jump from the 8 to the 10, the compelling reasons they gave us were Animojis, a better selfie cam, and then
Face ID. Yeah.
And we'll have calls, people that are for it and that are lukewarm, and people that are totally all about it, but that's not worth $200 for most people.
Yeah, and I feel bad for all the developers, and other people who make like the little component parts for the phone, because if Apple's cutting all that, all those people are taking a hit too. And that's like a long chain of companies. That's a lot of companies, OLED screens, chips and everything that goes into the phone. So that's a big deal when Apple's saying they're going to cut half of their production,
So these are things just to keep your eye on. I'm not saying it's a failure, but it did at least disappoint to a certain degree. The other thing, though, the biggest news that came this week, iOS 12 feature delays. Did you hear about this, Beach?
I did, yeah, a little bit. I've been reading about it a little bit here.
So here's the story broken by Axios from Ina Fried, formerly of CNET in the past. And basically, Ina reported the scoop that Apple will be delaying iOS features to focus on reliability and performance. And when I hear that headline, I think two things. I think that's a good idea,
Yes.
but I also think it's like we've talked about this, and I'm not going to beat everyone down with this, but it is relevant for today's show again. This is the new Apple. This is a different Apple that remember in the past when Apple used to be able to innovate and deliver on time.
Yeah.
That is not them. That's not in their DNA anymore. It's just not.
This is an admission of guilt, sort of, in a way. You know what I mean? Like they're admitting, like, yeah, we've been putting out stuff that's substandard, so we want to take a little more time to make sure we get it right.
And again, think about iOS 11 has been a disaster from a bug standpoint, from a patch. They remember there it was probably about a 6 week span where every week there was a new update to the
Yeah.
update to the update of the update.
Totally.
Like, and I'm not even over exaggerating. There were actually two more updates in that update to the update that we updated that we're talking about.
That's right. There have been a few
So
more.
you know what? They need to do this, and I think this is a good move to get it right. They're kind of getting ahead of everyone, saying, "Hey, guess what? iOS 12, we're not going to bring all the features we expected to, but we want to fine tune it and tweak it." It reminds me a little bit of when Apple did a Snow Leopard for Mac OS 10. Remember, Apple had the Cat series of operating systems. They had Leopard, and the next year they're like, Snow Leopard is going to be a refinement, and it really was. I remember it optimized like file space. It was faster. It was snappier. It was cleaner. The thing is that they had made that kind of known very early. So I feel, and the other issue is that it wasn't like Leopard was a disaster of an operating system. Snow Leopard just fine tuned it. And so here is a little different where iOS 11 was pretty dang crappy, and iOS 12 is going to hopefully fine tune it, not from an aesthetic purpose, but just from a bugs, efficiency, snappiness. We will, though, still see some of the features that they were expecting to put in. So, what happened here is when we talk about features in iOS 12 coming up, some of them won't make the cut. So, we know that Bloomberg reported earlier how one of Apple's kind of grand plans or grand visions is to bring Mac OS and iOS apps together where you could build kind of a universal app that would work on both a touch device and a keyboard and mouse device.
Yeah.
That is still going to be the case. So that's good. But the other thing that happened is these are Bloomberg kind of dug into some of the features that they know about that will not be making the cut. One of the things was an augmented reality multiplayer mode that was being reportedly worked on with iOS 12. The biggest thing, a redesigned home screen app grid. So kind of a new layout and a new home screen. That was expected to come out in iOS 12, but it looks like they're putting that on the back burner. There's some new file management apps and business user enhancements that they're working on. But overall, another thing that they talked about is even a new kind of app with photo or feature to the Photos app that would help you reorganize and more easily organize your photos. Some of these things just aren't going to show up in iOS 12 now because they're working on optimizing. And again, when I hear some of those features, I'm like,
yeah, I feel you.
okay,
Yeah, it's like
FaceTime improvements. We haven't seen multi-user FaceTime for God knows how long. I think the iPhone 4 might have been when FaceTime came out,
yeah,
and
right.
we haven't literally like. I would love to do a multi-person chat on FaceTime. Still
That
hasn't
would be
happened.
awesome. There are like little tiny FaceTime things where you can kind of move the screen, like the little box around, and resize and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
nothing major. And
nothing.
the things that you just said they're not like exciting. They're going to redesign how we organize our photos. Like I feel like they already did that and they made it more confusing in that process. You know,
Hey,
like
memories. I'm down with memories, bro. I'm
memories
all
is
about
cool.
memories.
Yeah, yeah. But
I don't know
yeah.
what like, memories got. Man, memories get you sometimes. I'm serious.
Oh, dude, like I'm way more into the Google memories, but they were doing it first before the Apple memories, I guess. But
Bro, this is an Apple show. Nothing else exists.
I know.
Like, don't that's a dirty word here. Nothing else exists. Apple did actually bring the first voice assistant to the phone. They just fell way behind.
Yeah. Hey, but when is iOS 12? Is there any indication on when that is going to come out, or has there been any words about that?
Well, from a calendar standpoint, they'll announce it at WWDC. They'll show off some of the features, and then we'll see it typically by September of 2018. But remember also at WWDC last year, they announced messages, iCloud syncing, and AirPlay 2. Neither of those have come out yet. It's been 8 months since they were announced as key tentpole features, and AirPlay 2 still isn't here, and that is what gives the HomePod its ability to use multi-room sound, or actually be able to use two of them in stereo as a stereo speakers. So that's still not here yet.
It's bummer.
So they need to get on that. But anyways, iOS 12 delays. I don't know what you guys think about this. We know this is the new Apple, but if you guys and gals want to call us, 1-800, I have to scroll up to look at the number because it always slips my mind. 616-2638. I want to hear your thoughts on this new Apple that we talk about. Are you okay with it? Are you not okay with it? Are you just such a super fan that you're like, you know what, just get it right? Because I'm all about getting it right, but I'm getting to a point where I'm kind of getting sick of saying just get it right.
I feel like I think the shareholders right now are not happy.
Well, they could put a little pressure on them, right? Just a little bit. The other story is that came out from Bloomberg was about a government probe coming at Apple, specifically about the iPhone. To the Department of Justice is one of them that's involved as sorry about that. Department of Justice and the Securities Exchange Commission, they are involved in investigating whether or not Apple really deceived consumers with their power management features that they decided to implement to slow down older iPhones. Nothing is happening right now. Let's just be honest about that. But Apple also came out and admitted, yes, there are government entities that are looking into what had happened. They're receiving questions from them, and they are responding to them. Here's the I also enjoyed this statement from Apple specifically. They say, as we told our customers in December, we have never and would never do anything to intentionally shorten the life of any Apple product or degrade the user experience to drive customer upgrades. Our goal has always been to create products that our customers love. Making iPhones last as long as possible is an important part of that. And I mean, I think that's a nice way to put it, but they would have never came out and said this if they were never caught doing it.
You're right. Yeah.
They literally, they only came out. We talked about this. So there's something there. Will they say, okay, I know Apple tried to get ahead of it. They are addressing the issue now. They are offering a battery replacement program, which is not the easiest to get fulfilled, for the record. People have had issues going to stores to make an appointment to replace their battery, and guess what? Apple says, oh, we don't have a battery for your phone.
Oh, wow. So it would be better if you scheduled it, right? And then hopefully they have a battery on hand when you get there.
So they're building in a new feature into that kind of system. If I recall right, I think they're testing it down in Canada right now, but I know that they're rolling out a new feature to basically get a battery in place specifically for you for your phone, because you've got to imagine and know that everyone went to Apple stores after they heard about the iPhone throttling issue with the batteries.
I'm going to try this, Brian. I'm going to try going through this process. I'm going to save this blog post here. I'm going to try this, and then I'll report back and tell everyone how my whole thing went down. So because I want to get a new battery for my iPhone 6. That's for sure.
You need to. You can go to Apple support page. Basically, if you type in iPhone battery replacement, the article that brings you through the steps to do it, it will be available there. So we'll see what happens with this investigation. Nothing is imminent. Honestly, I think it's just going to be like they'll get a slap in the wrist. But there are people that are actually filing like class action lawsuits against Apple.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's several of them from consumers throughout the U.S. I don't know if anyone's doing it outside of the U.S., but I definitely know that that's happening. So we'll see how that all plays out. But look, I mean, all these things that we've been talking about, it's just not the brightest time for Apple right now.
I know.
Yeah. They wish, honestly, I know so bad. They just wish that they had a product right now that could just kind of like distract everyone from all the problems, and they're hoping the HomePod might be it. But we'll talk about
they
that
need
in a
to
little.
release the memo. I'm just kidding.
Hey,
Distraction.
hey man, remember we get calls from people saying how, dude, you don't need to be so
No,
political.
I'm
on
not
Apple
being
Byte.
political. I'm just making a joke. Release the memo, Apple. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Don't be so political on Apple Byte. That's not what we're coming for. That's not what we're coming for, guys. All right, we're just playing with you all. We will continue on with the show and let you know that today's episode is unsullied by sponsorship.
Oh.
We can say whatever we want. We can say words like memo.
This show is sponsored by CNET.com. Check it out. CNET.com.
Make Apple great again. MAGA.
Yeah.
MAGA. All right, another cool story by our friends at Bloomberg, and Mark Gurman and their crew have been literally working their butt overtime. Apple is working on a new trio of Macs for this year with custom processors. Jeez, I can't even talk. That could launch sometime by the end of this year. Now, we know right now 2 Macs currently actually have co-processors in them. The MacBook Pro with the Touch Bar, kind of the really probably one of the biggest flops of a feature that I've seen in an Apple product. The Touch Bar, honestly, it drives me crazy to this day. Like,
it drives a lot of people crazy, man.
But anyways, the MacBook Pro with the Touch Bar and the current iMac Pro are 2 Apple products that actually have co-processors. The MacBook Pro has the T1 co-processor that helps control the Touch Bar and all those icons on the keyboard. The T2 Mac co-processor is in the iMac Pro that handles the power management and computer security. No word yet, though, if it turns to liquid metal and stabs you. I hope people.
Let's hope not.
I hope someone got that. If not, it's gonna make me really sad. And if it wasn't funny, just call us and let us know.
I would have laughed more, but I was paying attention to the link I was pulling up here.
It wasn't really funny. It was more like a sneak attack, like mentioned. Like if you're cool with us, you would totally get that. But if not, it's like forget you.
Yeah.
Now Apple has been developing processors for a while. We know the A4 processor, the very first Apple dedicated built in-house processor for the iPhone 4. They've obviously evolved that all the way through the iPad, which may or may not be a computer, depending on who you ask.
That's right.
That's true. But anyways, the report from Bloomberg, and as I've gone on a bunch of different tangents, is Apple's expecting to release 3 new computers. 2 of them are expected to be laptops, and one of them is expected to be an all-new Mac desktop that will use new Apple co-processors. You've got to imagine they're going to follow kind of along the lines of what is happening with the iMac Pro from a processing standpoint. But if it's with a laptop, fine. It could be a new evolved T1 processor for the Touch Bar. But I'm just like, they need to bring at least bring haptic feedback to that Touch Bar, just something.
Yeah.
Like I have to look at that Touch Bar and then tap it once just to turn the volume up and down.
Yeah, I made a whole video about this with Steve Shanklin and all his gripes about the Touch Bar, maybe like 6 months ago, and there's a lot of them, and it was an interesting video. So,
well, you should go back to. I'm not going to throw him out under the bus, but you should go back to Steve Shanklin's initial tweets when the Touch Bar came out. He was all over it like white on rice, and I'm like, dude, I haven't even used it. You haven't even used it. That thing is not going to be that good. It's going to drive you crazy. So 3 new Macs coming that could launch by the end of this year with new co-processors. All right, we talked about the product that Apple needs to like distract everybody. Just like, we need another hit. Like, don't talk about all this iPhone mumbo jumbo. We need a hit. Beecham, what time do you what do you think the wait time for a HomePod is right now?
Oh man, I hope it's like less than 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks?
I hope.
Okay, what if I told you the HomePod still available for February 9th delivery?
Oh, wow, cool.
Both colors.
Nice. So that's next week.
You might say that's nice, but I also think that's actually really bad.
Oh, it is. It's bad.
Well, the reason why it's bad is Apple wants to sell these bad boys out, and I don't think that they've made tens of millions of these by any stretch of the imagination. And to me, honestly, I don't remember the last time an all new product from Apple was still available for pre order with a delivery date of the actual release date a week later after its pre order.
Oh wow.
And I think that that's worrisome to Apple too. Like I know there's people that are high on the HomePod. Like you know where we stand with it. It's a wait and see, but it's still available, guys. You can just you could just go right online. You could buy 4. It's still going to be available.
I see. You're saying so it's not sold out yet. This is what you're saying. I was like I was half paying attention. I'm sorry. So usually
well, you are running the entire show. So
I'm like looking for HomePod video to show for B-roll here, and I found you a nice video of you here.
Oh, God, that's gross.
Okay. But so they're still available. They're not even close to being sold out, and you don't think they've made millions. So that's a bad sign. That's a bad apple.
Well, I'm not going to give them a bad apple until I review it. So I'm just kidding.
Just the pre-order situation.
I think it's going to sound really good, but again, $349, guys and gals, $349.
$349 plus tax.
Plus tax. $349. Yeah, you don't mind? All right. Apple has confirmed on their support, their tech spec pages, the actual audio sources. Like this is the first kind of official layout of all the different audio sources that the HomePod will support. To let everyone know that is into this. The Apple Music service, HomePod users can ask Siri to play any of over 45 million songs available on Apple Music. Yes, a subscription is required. And I definitely think if you're an Apple fan who has Apple Music and you don't have a Home Assistant, I think you're the type of person that would be willing to drop $349 for this.
Oh, yeah.
That's because you're literally like the ideal like target for this. It's not a lot of people. It's some people, but it's not like the tens of millions of people. Also, iTunes Music. So you can obviously play any songs, albums, or audiobooks that you've purchased from the iTunes store. Much like I've pre-ordered the Black Panther album produced by Kendrick Lamar. Are you kidding?
Oh, nice.
That comes out on February 9th. Oh, I'm so hyped for that movie. I'm not even kidding. iCloud Music Library. So HomePod can also ask Siri to play any songs that have been uploaded to a user's iCloud Music Library. Oh, very good. Cool. That also includes, your iTunes Match subscription or CDs or Apple Music. Beats One, HomePod users can ask them to play Apple's official radio station. Podcasts, you can play any podcast directly through Siri. We'll see how well that works because sometimes it can be it. I've used voice assistants to try and pull up podcasts, and it's not always the easiest. And then AirPlay, we know that natively the HomePod will not support any third-party music services, so at least AirPlay will allow you to use your phone to play Spotify or Pandora or other apps like that to your. I don't want to ignore Tidal because people that are on Tidal might get mad. I think Tidal people might have a little complex with Tidal because it's like the service that never gets mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't think Tidal people like that.
Yeah, I think Jay-Z is trying to sell it too, right?
He's been trying to sell it for a long time.
Lose it. But they were the first one that came out and said we're gonna do like high res files. So I was stoked on that. But I signed up for like the free preview, But then I never. Yeah. And then I got the Rihanna album, which is cool. But I never stuck with it.
See, to me, you're the ideal person that Tidal is trying to target, and you're like, nah, I'm good, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's that is an indication of when like it just isn't working, right? Like look at how many. There's going to be a lot of ideal candidates for the HomePod, but I don't think those ideal candidates are all going to pull the trigger on it.
No, I agree.
This is not going to happen. Phil Schiller has some thoughts on the iPad. I keep on calling it all these different things. Phil Schiller has his own thoughts on the HomePod. This is what he said to Sound and Vision. He believes that Apple's in a position to create a new kind of music experience that not only sounds incredible, but is also fun to interact with. He says that's the driving force behind Apple's work on the smart speaker. He also said this quote, "We don't think it's just about HomePod, though, or any one product. It's about creating an experience that moves with you throughout the day."
I don't what is that? I don't understand.
That's what I'm saying. That's called marketing speak.
That's just like listening to music.
That's not even English.
Yeah, it's just like, how are you going to innovate listening to music? I don't understand.
Come on, the HomePod, man. What are you talking about? The answer is the HomePod. That's what you've been looking for. That answer.
Yeah, I mean they did it when they made the iPod. You know, that was innovative. Like I have all my albums in here, but I don't know how they're gonna do it with the HomePod. So
Booza watching us on Periscope's like HomePod is very bad. All right, YouTube TV. Just some. We have a couple quick hits before we wrap this thing up. YouTube TV's $35 per month cord cutting service coming to Apple TV very soon, according to sources. That source would be David Katzmeyer of CNET. So another kind of TV streaming service for y'all. If you want to jump on that, that's cool. I'm honestly on the PS View, PlayStation View. I love that thing.
I tried YouTube TV for like a month, and I loved it. I thought it was cool, but I just my cable's already has a lot more, so I stuck with my cable.
What stations though are you stuck with on your cable? Like, because to me it's live sports that really keeps you locked in cable.
Yeah, that's it. Golf Channel. Like YouTube TV doesn't have CNN, and my wife likes the home network. Like the Home Improvement Network. There's a lot of things that YouTube TV doesn't have, but the way it works is fantastic. I mean, just Chromecasting and stuff. It's fantastic. Yeah. But it just it needs more. It just needs more channels, more content.
A little more meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
So this one is I don't know if I have it pulled up for you, but I hope you can find it, Beach. It's the "What's a Computer" ad from Apple. We told you right when it came out, like 2 months ago, how horrendous this commercial was because it was classic Apple arrogance, and it was funny because someone from Business Insider, the gentleman's name is Dennis Green, in late January, decided to write an article about how people were pissed off by this ad. And it's funny because then it kind of surfaced the fact that, yeah, it made light something we've been talking about forever, that how horrible and how cocky that ad is. Like, there's tweets, there's posts around it. I don't know how you guys and gals feel about it, but it's just an infuriating ad of just like the hipster so cocky, and her neighbor just nicely comes by and asks her, "Oh, what are you doing on your computer?" She's like, "What's a computer?" It's like, I don't want to say I want to slap that person around, but I kind of do. It's just so wrong.
I haven't watched this. I need to watch it.
Wait, you've never seen? Wait, you've never seen this commercial?
I've seen just like the little short ones. It's playing on Twitter a lot.
Yeah.
And I never like turn on the sound or like sit down to watch it, but I keep seeing this where she's going through the tunnel.
Yeah, right. Just watch the entire ad for me, and then tell us how you feel next week.
I'll just put up.
Here, display it. Yeah, music. Coming up. Here we go.
Hey, what you doing on your computer?
What's a computer?
What? That is kind of infuriating. What's a computer?
It's, you know what? This sets a precedent for Apple. The next time you have a problem with your MacBook Pro, you're like, "Dude, my computer's not working." And the genius is going to look you dead in the eye and say, "What's a computer?"
You're going to like hold it up and say, "This is a computer."
And it's going to go down in the genius bar when that happens. Hey, you want some good news?
Yes.
You want to hear, that Nintendo finally decided to pay attention to me, 4 or 5 years later? Mario Kart Tour. They announced on their Twitter account, Mario Kart Tour will be coming out for mobile. It's now in development, releasing sometime in March of 2019.
I know. I saw that yesterday. I got really excited. I'm like, "Oh, yes." And then 2019. That's more than that's a long ways away. So
it's cool. It's like, oh, you guys are halfway there. Like they their first mobile app, it was kind of like I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was basically like making like your own Miyamoto or something. It was like you're making your own avatar for a mobile phone.
Oh yeah.
It was the stupidest. They actually just canceled that app.
Oh yeah, they did shut it down, like the Miiverse. Miiverse, I think it was.
Can't remember. It was a Miatomo or something. Like, I literally could care less about it. It was that bad. Because I remember when it came out, I also complained, put out a damn game. Put out a classic game on the phone.
Yes.
Sell for $10. Everyone's going to buy that. Like,
Mario Go kicked ass, man. Mario Go. My kids still love to play that. It's fun.
Yeah, just do it. All right. Should we got some awesome calls. Should we get to the phone calls?
Let's do it, man. Thank you guys all for calling. Let me put the phone number up one more time.
Yes. Remember, guys and gals, boys and girls, children of all ages, well, at least be semi-age appropriate. 1-800-616-2040 2638. That is the number to call. Name where you're from, and we had some really good calls. We honestly, even we let some of these go long because they were good points, but still just try to keep it around a minute-ish. It just helps.
Yeah, totally.
It just helps.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. One of them I'm going to cut off midway, just to warn you guys. Here we go.
Hey, this is Brian from New Orleans. Wanted to give my 2 cents on Face ID. I've had my iPhone 10 since launch day, and I'm pretty used to Face ID. It works, I tell people, probably like 8 out of 10 times, which isn't terrible for new technology, but I still have multiple times throughout the day where I'm having to type my passcode in, or it just kind of freezes while it's figuring out whether it's me or not. Brian, it actually does work when I have my toothbrush in my mouth. So, there's a good apple there. Quick bad apple, real quick. The fact that they took away a lot of icons off that top bar on the iPhone 10 actually bit me this week. I support iPhones for my business, and someone came to me talking about the fact that their phone wasn't receiving calls, et cetera, et cetera. In the past, would have quickly looked at the notification bar at the top and seen that the phone was in Do Not Disturb mode. But when Do Not Disturb mode is turned on the iPhone 10, the only way you can figure it out is to either A, go to settings, or B, pull down Control Center. So it took me a little bit longer to figure out exactly what the problem was. Ultimately, I figured it out and kind of felt stupid. But I wish that they would bring the little crescent moon back when it was in Do Not Disturb mode, especially since people at my business do it accidentally all the time. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Bye.
Don't feel stupid, man.
Brian, I would like to know the model of toothbrush you're actually using so I can verify that. I have a electric toothbrush, and maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, someone tweeted at us after the last show and said that if you don't get into your Face ID and you're like at a weird angle or something, if you put in your code, it will record that angle or something. And so the next time, like maybe so if you try it with your toothbrush, you don't get in, then you put in your code and it lets you in. Maybe next time it'll let you in with the toothbrush. So,
I mean, I don't know. It still doesn't work with me when in the morning when I wake up. I mean, like seriously, like I'm like, maybe it's because my eyes are like even like more closed than whatever.
You must look haggard when you wake up in the morning.
It must be fugly, dude. It's like that ain't Brian. No, we're not gonna unlock this phone. No, we're not gonna do that. All right. But yeah, good call. I love it.
Okay, let's move on. This one I'm gonna cut off midway, everybody. So just keep that in mind. Here we go.
Hey guys, this is Adam from Utah. Just finished listening to your most recent episode, and hearing a lot of people calling about Face ID. And I've had the iPhone X since launch day, and honestly, I've been pretty darn impressed with just how it's been working. From my personal experience, even yesterday going skiing up in the mountains, I would say 75% of the time it would unlock when I've got even my goggles on or my helmet on, which I wouldn't be able to do with with gloves on or my hands being wet. And so, honestly, for me, I prefer Face ID because each one has kind of the times that it doesn't work, but I prefer the times that Face ID does work. And I get it even when I'm lying in bed, on the side of my face, it's half covered up with my pillow. It doesn't unlock, but for me, that's the few times that it doesn't. But here's the thing that I think people don't talk enough.
All right, I'm gonna get rid of that.
Yeah, I think, he makes good points too. I think what I realize can be frustrating. It's not for me, but I also have to think like outside of the technorati or like the tech world. Is imagine this, like the power before the power button was just like the power button, right? But now the power button is like Siri. It's part of screen capture. It's part of turning your phone off in combination with another button. It's like one button that does like a bunch of different things now, and it's just not as quote unquote user friendly as it used to be.
Yeah.
Like what my lady, she's like, how do I reset my phone? I'm like, I was like trying to tell her from a distance. She's like, what? I'm like, no, you got to hold these two. And then she's like, it took a screenshot. I'm like, no, these two. And it's like, yeah, man. It's like,
that's the thing, is having to relearn behavior is hard, Like we don't want to relearn behavior. We don't want to learn a new language of how to write on your phone. It's like we got enough to deal with,
Dude, that's how they're controlling us, man. That's how they're controlling us.
And they have, they have some analytics on how people like type, or they probably have some tracking.
They're controlling us.
Stop controlling us. Okay.
All right.
Got a couple more calls. Here we go. Moving through.
Yo, Beach and Tong, glad you're back from the holidays, man. I didn't have anything to listen to. Calling about the HomePod. Look, I'm the Apple guy that everybody comes to at work. I always am the first adopter of the new products. Always get the newest phone. Got the AirPods, love them. But the HomePod may be where I part ways. And the bottom line is, the cost of entry is just getting ridiculous, right? When you've got Alexa or even Google's platform, it's fully integrated into everything, into all these devices, and they want another $350 just to get into that with Apple. It just seems like I'm starting to part ways. So, I feel bad because, I've been a Siri guy, but Alexa's been my side chick for a while, and I think I'm going to keep going in that direction. I just think the cost of entry for the product itself is just getting way too high. That's my 2 cents, man, or men. Talk to you guys later. Keep doing good shows. Thanks.
I feel him.
Dude, he's moving in the direction of the side chick. That's what I got out of that one. I don't think he was talking about Alexa either.
Yeah.
I do want to make a point that we did have another caller. It was just super long, but I did want to give him credit. He did call in and mentioned how HomeKit was released first, so Apple had established the ecosystem first, which is true, but they never actually turned it into something that consumers could latch onto early. That's part of how they fell behind. But he did mention, like, look, if you have an Apple TV, it can be the hub. But then I'm like, well, not everyone has an Apple TV. And there are aspects of it where you can control things remotely that can be a little easier. But I just wanted to recognize his call because he said that we are so harsh on HomePod and HomeKit that we don't give it enough credit. So, I mean, I'll give it credit for coming out first, but Apple just didn't know what to do with it. And why did Amazon accelerate so fast, even though HomeKit was technically announced first? Is because Amazon opened up their API to let anyone jump on board, third-party companies, people that are developing apps, and it became a thing because they weren't so close-minded about it. When Apple announced HomeKit, they said, like they always do, oh, we'll make this available to certain specific partners. Well, that took forever to even happen. And then you just limit this. You limit this new thing, and they've done this every step of the way with HomePod and HomeKit. It hurts the actual advancement of the product. So I think that's one of the biggest things. They had it. They had Siri, they had HomeKit, but because of strategy-wise or what they were looking at, they were so focused on the phone is it. Other companies like, we're going to try something different, and guess what? It worked. So that's on Apple more than anyone else. Like, they had all the pieces in place, quite honestly.
They did, yeah. He also mentioned like ease of use on the Apple HomeKit app, and I haven't really played with it a whole lot, but I am interested to play with it after that, because I do sometimes when I'm using Alexa and I use the Alexa app, I'll run it. I kind of get lost in there. It is not that intuitive to use the Alexa app. Sometimes it's a little difficult to like, which room am I in, or what am I listening to? So I don't know.
Its interface is nicer because it's like tile based, and you can create groups, and you can do this with other apps. I think what it comes down to though is even if the interface is really easy, the fact of the matter that is, I'll give them a credit for having an easier interface, but Amazon is better because, like I said, it came out of the gates. It's more compatible. It does more things, and it was ready to roll, and everyone was ready to accept it, and now everyone is on it. So that's, even with a easy to use app, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the product that people end up using.
Yeah. All right, we got a few more calls. Let's get through them. Here we go.
Hi, Brian and Beach. My name is Luke from Australia. Big fan of the show. I'm just calling to serve as a warning to all iCloud users. I know that it should be obvious to not trust cloud services, especially iCloud. I stored over 200 gigs of important data to iCloud, and what happened was the drive ran out of storage. So I upgraded the space, but it was already too late. The drive stopped working. At first I thought it was just local to one machine, but this has actually happened to my iCloud drive on the server end. So now I can no longer retrieve my files. The reason that it is so bad is because most of my files were synced off the Mac due to the optimized Mac storage option. I've spent many, many, many hours on the phone with Apple. They keep telling me they just need a bit more time, It's now coming up to 4 months, and I know I'm never going to see my files again. So I can download them one at a time from iCloud.com, but I have over 200,000 files, and furthermore, I just purchased an iMac, and I signed in with the account, but nothing comes down. So everyone just be vigilant. Anyway, thanks for the good work, guys. Keep it up.
That's a brutal story, man. I'm sounding the alarm on that one. That is a brutal story. 200 gigs?
I for some reason I felt like Beyonce was gonna start coming out dancing. Raise the alarm. No, you know what? That story is painful to hear.
Yes.
That was a painful story to hear. The alarm is still going on.
Dude, I'm sounding the alarm. This is a big deal. No, like, I've lost songs that maybe were like 30 gigs, and that hurts your soul. But to lose 200 gigs of data, that's probably important stuff.
Dude,
I hope it gets worked out. 4 months, Apple. He's dealing with Apple for 4 months. Sound the alarm, man. Brutal.
Anyways, you know what? Though I appreciate that he called in just to like tell his story, because that's kind of like being a part of the community. And I've said on the show, like, I'm old school in certain ways, and I don't put my stuff on the cloud. Like, I have my music collection on my hard drive, and then I also have a backup hard drive. And it's one of those things that once it fails, it hurts so bad you'll never do it again.
Yeah,
you'll never do it again once a cloud service fails on you.
My advice is to have everything backed up before you put it in the cloud. So you got a backup of everything, and then put it in the cloud as the third backup. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I try to do. So, that is such a painful
I don't even want to say it, but 200 gigs, son.
That's a lot. 200,000 files, he said, something like that. Hey.
All right.
Okay, well, I hope Apple gets that worked out for you, man.
Also, that siren could have set off a 2 Live Crew.
What? 2 Live Crew?
Dude,
I don't think I've heard that song, actually.
I swear, in their very controversial, explicit album that I should not have listened to when I was like in 7th grade or something. It was real bad.
Dude, we all of us 90s kids listened to the most expletive laced music when we were in the 90s, man.
Crazy.
Any 90s hip hop or metal even.
It's crazy.
Okay, let's keep going. We got 3 calls left. Let's get through them. Here we go.
Hey, Brian, this is Eric calling from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I really love the show. I think you guys are doing a great job. I'm just wondering about the Apple Pencil. I think it's a good Apple product that has a lot of potential. Maybe Apple will improve it soon, and that's what I'm wondering about. I kind of want to buy an Apple Pencil now, but, should I buy it now or should I wait, expecting a new Apple Pencil to come this summer? Thanks, Brian. Hey.
I love this call because obviously I'm a big fan of the iPad Pro, except for that horrible commercial. For the record, that commercial just makes me want to kick it across the room. But the rumors and reports is that the new iPad Pro that will be coming out sometime this year, my hunch is it's going to be coming out towards the middle to the second half of the year, is that there will be reportedly a new pencil with new software features. So, if you're on the fence right now and you don't really need it, just wait it out. But I love the iPad Pro. I've talked about it a bunch of times, but there's some amazing apps on it now that use the actual pencil. A photo editing app called Affinity Photo, that is Affinity, AFFINITY, which is, it's just bonkers. It's it's basically Photoshop, and in some ways even better on your iPad. So I love that. I love that app, and it's for you can do podcast. You can literally record podcasts on your iPad. There's a few programs like Ferrite and others. There's just so much you can do now that it's really cool. I'm a big fan. That's all I can say. I'm a big fan.
Right on.
So no one can say, "Oh, you hate Apple products."
No, exact opposite. Okay, here we go. 2 more left. 2 short ones. Here we go.
Hey, Beach and Tong, this is Tom from New York. Just have a question for you guys. Maybe you can help me out here. But I noticed that the Face ID only works when the phone is in portrait mode. Does not work horizontally. I mean, if they're going to make an iPad Pro, they're going to have to figure that one out. Half the time when I'm laying down, I have to sit up in bed just to open up my phone, and that's not going to work with an iPad. Let me know what you think.
That's funny.
Dude, honestly, I had no idea until our man just called us. Like, I totally tried. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so right. It doesn't unlock when it's your phone's locked and it's horizontal. It will not unlock. I know there's people going to try this now that are listening. It does not unlock. So, and he's absolutely right about it. Them having to do something for the iPad, because it's like I use my iPad horizontally like most of the time, other than when I'm reading comics. So
cool.
That's crazy. That's a good find, man. I love that.
All right. This is the last call. Here we go.
Hi, this is Josh from Ambler. As always, I love your show. You guys rock. I was actually just listening to this week's show. You guys were talking about CarPlay. And again, it's something that Apple has really unfortunately done half-baked, period. I have the iPhone 10 with the latest software, and I have a 2018 Audi Q5, and it is incredibly glitchy. It is really not reliable. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've taken the car to Audi, and Audi says that Audi corporate is working with Apple to sort out this problem, but it's really a problem with Apple's software. When I spoke to them, they said other car manufacturers are having similar problems, and it just goes towards, the overall disappointment of Apple putting things out that really aren't polished. I mean, Steve Jobs would have never, ever been okay with something like this. So your thoughts. Thanks. Have a good one.
This comes down to a theme that is part of their new identity. They're just spread too thin. They're doing too many things. Their resources are spread too thin. If they wanted to, they could maybe invest some of those $285 billion of cash they're sitting on and employ more people to get their stuff done, because now they have like 12 different product categories with 5 models per product category.
I was just going to say, man, $283 billion?
They're sitting on it. The thing is, can money make things easier for all of us, including Apple? It's like they are just literally spread too thin, and you've seen that now with what happened with the iPhone. Remember, there are stories about how Tim Cook really wanted to prioritize the Apple Watch, and so they shifted resources from other teams specifically for the Apple Watch and to get it up and running and all that. And that's what happens when you start building all these new product categories and you're not sure how much time and resources it takes. This is a lot of work. And so, yeah, is it harder? Absolutely. Do I know how to do any of this? Absolutely not. But at the same time, you understand the dynamics of Apple in the past was more focused. They didn't have nearly as many products. They didn't have 3 or 4 different screen size form factors just for one iOS. And it makes you have to really ramp up across all levels to be able to do that. And a lot of the leadership and key roles during that era are gone now. So this is a new Apple with a new set of rules. And quite honestly, I think that I've always said this jokingly, that I think Apple management, like the people high up, are probably happier and more at ease with Tim Cook at the helm, because he's not going to like destroy anyone. But Steve Jobs instilled kind of this fear in people, yeah. And it worked. Like, we benefited from SJ being a total jackass to them.
Yeah, he was pretty hardcore.
Serious. Like, when the caller said, "Oh, SJ would have never let that happen, that would never been acceptable," he would have chewed some people out hard and fired people. He would have.
Oh yeah. Like
iOS 11. I mean, that's embarrassing, man. That the launch of iOS 11 is embarrassing. Who's accountable for it? And I don't want people to lose their jobs. Someone listening right now is like, "Oh, I wish Brian lost his job." But, that's not the point. It's just you've got to put more resources behind this stuff, because it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. Well, that's it, man. That's all our calls.
That's it.
We are done.
We are done, so all right. Beach, thanks again for another show. We're doing it long distance. I'll be back in the studio next week.
All right.
So, yeah, will I be back? Yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah, totally.
I'll be down. All right, so there you have it, everybody. Remember, call us 1-800-616-2638. Be a part of a show. Just let us know what you're thinking, what's on your mind. This is not a show to bitch about Apple. It's because we all love tech. And yeah, we love Apple too, but man, they drive us crazy sometimes. All right.
They also make us happy. They do both. They make us happy and they drive us crazy.
And also, it's just fun to like rip on a company that thinks they're so great all the time. I don't know. It's just fun. It's just fun. All right. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Peace.